Hopefully this works smoothly. All right. You may go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our special council meeting of Monday, March 31st, 2025. I will now call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Administrative and procedural issues 2.1. I'd ask for an approval of the motion to approve the agenda as presented. Somebody could, Deputy Mayor Gould and Councilor McCormick. First and second are on that one. Thank you. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 3, business issues. 3.1, 2025-2026 budget approval. I will now turn the floor over to Director of Finance, Amy Hertel. Go ahead, Amy.
Just before Amy takes over, Your Worship, I've just got a few brief comments to make.
You weren't in the agenda, but we'll let you in.
Thank you. Your Worship, members of council, I'm pleased to be bringing forward the draft operating and capital budgets for the municipality for the next fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026. Today's date is very significant in the context of the budget approval process. Today marks the first time in recent memory that the municipality's operating and capital budgets have been brought forward for council's consideration and final approval prior to the beginning of the fiscal year. Today is March 31st. Our fiscal year starts tomorrow. It's a significant organizational achievement, and I'd like to recognize our finance staff led by Director Amy Hertel for their hard work and determination to get us to this point. I'd also, though, like to recognize the directors of our operating departments and the Deputy CAO for their work in getting this done. I'd also like to thank you, Your Worship, and the members of council for their support, for your support as we've worked through the process. It is a significant achievement. So just a few brief comments about the budget and the content of it. And Amy will go through the motions with you when I'm finished. Although our commercial assessment values remained relatively flat this year, residential capped assessment grew by about 7%. With the Property Valuation Services Corporation setting the assessment cap at 1.5%, real residential growth or new assessment was about 5.5%. This growth produced about $1.5 million in additional tax dollars. This additional revenue, along with an estimated $300,000 in recoveries from the Extended Producer Responsibility or EPR program, provided the necessary funding for our day-to-day operations. Unfortunately, though, our mandatory costs for things like policing, mandatory contributions to education, the Property Valuation Services Corporation, which we refer to as the PVSC, and provincial roads increased by an estimated $936,000. So that's $936,000 of our $1.5 million increase. Mandatory contributions to education took the biggest chunk of that, increasing from $5.9 million to almost $6.5. We simply write 12 checks a year for that to the province for school board operations. Salary and benefits costs also rose by about $374,000 due to CPI adjustments for staff and for increased pension benefits and workers' compensation costs. We have experienced a significant increase in our workers' compensation costs. One new position, an occupational health and safety coordinator, is recommended for approval. We do expect to see positive movement on those workers' compensation costs as a result of adding this position. Provision of fire protection is one of the municipality's most significant cost drivers. The municipality supports 16 volunteer fire departments operating over 90 individual trucks and pieces of equipment essential to the fire service in Cumberland County. In addition, the municipality makes payments under agreement with 3 fire departments in Oxford, Amherst, and in 5 Islands. The annual budget this year for the fire service alone is just over $3 million. It's estimated that operating costs alone in the fire service will rise by about $200,000. The increased cost of postage, which increased by 25% overnight a couple of months back, The increased cost of postage, insurance, electricity, and other miscellaneous services and inputs accounted for about $260,000 worth of increase year over year. We are also estimating that the costs related to solid waste management, collection, tip fees, and transfer stations will rise by about $150,000 this year. With over $700 million in municipal infrastructure and equipment, the capital budget is also a key piece of the annual budget process. The capital budget recommended for 25-26 comes in at $14.3 million, with the lion's share, or just over $9 million of that being spent on fire buildings, apparatus or trucks, and equipment. An additional $3 million is earmarked for municipal buildings, vehicles, and equipment and infrastructure like sewage treatment plants. Another $1.15 million funded by gas tax is set aside for capital paving. The capital budget is funded from operations, from reserves, and from the Canada Community Building Fund. We refer to that colloquially as the gas tax fund, and planned long-term debt of $2 million. While this year's capital and operating budgets were able to be funded from existing revenues, reserves, and some long-term debt, looking to the future, there are some financial challenges we see on the horizon. The municipality's long-term financial challenges relate mainly to continuing to fund contributions to major community projects, finding the funds to pay for the ongoing replacement of fire trucks and buildings, and maintaining the previously mentioned $700 million worth of municipal infrastructure, all while maintaining healthy levels of long-term debt and operating in capital reserves. In order to meet these challenges, an increase of 3 cents per $100 of assessment to the general residential and commercial tax rates is recommended. This will allow the municipality to fund most of the major capital project requests it has received over a 4-year basis, and to increase contributions to capital reserves to address infrastructure renewal. At this time, the municipality expects to invest most of the benefit of extended producer responsibility, or EPR, expected to be about $600,000 in fiscal 26-27 in capital spending for the fire service. Combined with the 1.5% capped increase in assessment, the overall percentage property tax increase for a residential taxpayer who qualifies for the assessment cap is about 4.2%. 3 cents on the 100 in a residential sense is 3 cents per $100 of assessment is $30 on a $100,000 home. Village rates for the villages of Pugwash and River Hibbert will be set later this month. We don't have all of the information available to us yet to set those rates. Finally, the operating costs for our municipal sewer systems have been outpacing revenues for all 3 systems, the rural system and the systems in Spring Hill and Parsboro, for a few years now. A 5% increase in sewer charges in all 3 systems is recommended. It's likely that there will also be necessary for a small increase again next year in sewer rates. So, Your Worship, with that, Director Hurdle will lead us through the motions that are necessary to give effect to the budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Greg. Amy, I'll now turn the floor over to you.
Okay. So there are several motions that need to be made on the budget. And so I'm just going to go one by one, and then I'll pass it back to Mayor Gilroy, and he can look for people making those motions. So the first motion is for the estimates of revenue and expenditures. And that motion reads that council accepts the following estimate of the sums required by the municipality of the County of Cumberland for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, prepared in accordance with section 72 of the Municipal Government Act. There are details of the revenue, but the total revenue is $41,060,201, and total expenses is $41,060,201. And the breakdown is in the motion, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. If someone would like to make the motion, that would be great. Thank you, Councillor Strong, and seconded by Councillor Lockhart. Any questions on the motion or any comments from anyone? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, Amy, back to you again.
Thank you, your worship. Tax rates that for the municipality of the county of Cumberland for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, the tax rates are as follows. For properties within the boundary of the former town of Parsboro, residential resource rate would be the general rate of $1.17 per $100 of assessment, in addition to the Parsboro area rate of 48 cents per $100 of assessment, for a total of $1.65 per $100 of assessment. The commercial rate for properties within the boundary of the former town of Parsboro is the general rate of $2.74 per $100 of assessment, in addition to the Parsboro area rate of $1.19 per $100 of assessment, for a total of $3.93 per $100 of assessment. For properties within the boundary of the former town of Spring Hill, the residential resource rate would be the general rate of $1.17 per $100 of assessment, in addition to the Spring Hill area rate of 48 cents per $100 of assessment, for a total of $1.65 per $100 of assessment. The commercial rate would be the general rate of $2.74 per $100 of assessment, in addition to the Spring Hill area rate of $1.19 per $100 of assessment, for a total of $3.93 per $100 of assessment. For all other properties, those that are not within the former town of Parsboro and Spring Hill, would be residential resource rate of general rate of $1.17 per $100 of assessment, and a commercial rate of $2.74 per $100 of assessment, your worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. Someone would like to make the motion on the tax rates? Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould, seconded by Councillor Fromm. Any discussion or comments on this? Seeing none, I'll ask for the question. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Amy, back to you.
Thank you. The next motion is on sewer rates. So that for the municipality of the county of Cumberland for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, the rates for each of the sewage collection and treatment systems are as follows. For Spring Hill and Apple Road, $292 per unit. For Amherst Marsh, Biggs Drive, Joggins, $484 per unit. For Joggins Extension, $616 per unit. Macan, Pugwash, River Hebert, and Wallace are all $484 per unit. Parsboro, $56 per property for vacant lots and developed lots not connected. And Parsboro metered $292 per cubic meter billed quarterly, your worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. The motion is here. If someone would like to make it. Moved by Councillor Hotelling and seconded by Councillor Lee. Any questions or discussion on this one? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Back to you again, Amy.
All right. Next one is for rural streetlights. That the uniform flat rate per assessment account for the municipality of the county of Cumberland for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026 for properties fronting rural streetlight systems be $33.49, your worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. There's the motion. If someone would like to make it. Moved by Councillor Fromm, seconded by Councillor Lockhart. Any questions on this one? Seeing none, I'll ask for the motion, the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. I got to get used to not saying yay. Got to be raise your hand. Thank you very much. Motion carried unanimously. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you. Private roads, that the following rate for the maintenance and improvement of private roads for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026 be billed and collected at the same time and in the same manner as municipal taxes. And the only private road is Jackson's Point Road Association, $40 per assessment account.
Thank you very much, Amy. Someone would like to make this motion? Moved by Councillor Redmond, second by Councillor Hotelling. Any questions or discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying, raising their hand. I did it again. Thank you. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Amy, back to you.
Thank you. 3 to go. We're
This
almost there.
part's really easy. Amy, back to you. Just keep
Yeah.
doing it.
For the due date of taxes, that the due date for the 2025-2026 tax levy and other rates be June 30th, 2025, with interest to be charged on outstanding tax accounts on or after July 2nd, 2025, at the rate of 1.25% per month, which is 15% per annum. Your worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. If somebody would like to make this motion, it would be good. Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded by Councillor Fromm. Any questions or discussion on this one? Hearing none, call for the question. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Back to you, Amy.
Thank you, your worship. The 2025-2026 capital budget and plan, that council approves the general capital budget for the municipality of the County of Cumberland for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2026, as presented, in the amount of $14,300,095 to be funded as follows. Capital from revenue, $500,125. Spring Hill operating reserve, $73,749. General operating reserve, $360,750. Spring Hill sewer reserve, $197,599. Sewer reserve, $400,000. Landfill reserve, $1,865,403. Solid waste reserve, $50,000. Fire protection operating reserve, $79,252. Fire protection capital reserve, $500,000. Capital reserves, $859,198. Grants, federal and provincial, $923,335. Short-term debt, $2,661,875. Long-term debt, $2 million. Sustainable Services Growth Fund, $227,000. And the Canada Community Building Fund, formerly Gas Tax Fund, $3.6 million. And community fundraising, $1,809, for total general capital funding of $14,300,095. And further, that council approves in principle the subsequent 4 years capital budget plan as presented. For March 31st, 2027, $12,694,069. For March 31st, 2028, $8,874,500. For March 31st, 2029, $5,950,000. And for March 31st, 2030, $2,650,000. The capital budget plan for the years ended March 31st, 2027 to March 31st, 2030 is for planning purposes only. This is not the authority to spend unless otherwise specifically authorized, nor is it necessarily the final and complete listing. Your worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. Trying to slow down the vote, give you a chance to catch your breath here. That was a long one. You've all heard the motion. Could I have a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor McCormick, seconded by Councillor Lockhart. Any discussion or comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Back to you, Amy.
Thank you, your worship. The last one, I'm not going to read it all, which is good because it's a full page, but this is a general motion we make every year. It's basically authorizing a line of credit in the event the municipality were to need it to bridge while we're collecting the majority of our taxes. Typically, we don't need to delve into it, but it's a standard motion that is made every year. So I will just, I guess, read the first part of it. So to authorize the borrowing of certain monies from the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce to meet the current expenditure of the corporation of the municipality of the County of Cumberland, hereinafter called the corporation, for the year ended ending March 31st, 2026. Your worship.
Thank you very much, Amy. So you've heard the motion, and could I have a mover for this motion, please? Moved by Councillor Lee, seconded by Councillor Redmond. Any questions or discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, folks. And thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you.
We're now down to calling for the motion to adjourn. Before we do, I personally and on behalf of council want to say a heartfelt thank you to Amy, you and your department, Greg, Peter McCracken, our deputy CEO, and all of the staff members that have been involved in the tremendous amount of work that has gone into preparing this budget in what I think is to be a record time. I don't know if we keep records about this around ever since the beginning of time, but this one is right up there. If it's not first, it'll be very, very close. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that we were able to get this done and be here today on the last day of March. It's a significant improvement over where we were in when we some of us came into council in 2020, and one of their focuses was to improve this process, streamline it, and get it to a point where it was done in a timely fashion. And this year really is the culmination of a number of years of effort and work on behalf of so many members of staff and council, the special meetings required to move and talk about some of this, the extra time it's been taken to discuss all the various points and all the moving parts of this, and to come up with something that we hope works for the taxpayers of the county of Cumberland. And I hope they understand that we do have a plan, and we're implementing it, and we're moving forward with it. And the plan that we have is a good one, and we're committed to it. So, and thank you very much, everyone. If I could have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gould, seconded by Councillor Fromm. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Your Worship.